Welcome to this webinar about the AI with impact. We have some exciting presentations today here. We also have a setup where you can ask questions along the presentations as we go, and then we'll answer them in a Q&A session in the end of the webinar. So please feel free to join with questions. But most likely we'll end up taking them in the end instead of answering them as we go along. The agenda looks like this. I have a couple of, one of my colleagues, Christian, who's in our Aalborg office, and he's going to give us an update on both on CoraxAI, what it is, and for those of you that's not familiar with CoraxAI yet, but also on some of the new features that is either launched or has launched recently or is launching within the next couple of weeks or month. We are also joined by Morten from Ant Money, who is going to present to us a very interesting and very innovative case that I'm looking forward to. So thanks for joining, both of you, and welcome to everybody. As I said before, we're going to try to keep it quick and very efficient here today. So we have around 10-15 minutes for each section here, and then some questions in the end, which is why we prefer to kind of look into your potential questions at the end. A little bit about Trifork before we start talking about Corax. CoraxAI is basically a product that's been developed by Trifork. Most of you probably already know Trifork. We're an IT/software company with offices across 16 countries and a little over 1,000 employees scattered across a lot of different business units and also startups. That's not the main story here today, so I'm gonna skip that relatively quickly. But obviously, if any of you are interested in knowing more about Trifork, feel free to reach out afterwards. We are also gonna share the presentation afterwards, potentially also a recording of this webinar, depending on how good we sound and look during the course of it. But we're definitely going to share the presentation afterwards, so we'll reach out on the email that you signed up with. We might not do it today because we need to brush up a few things, but if you're very impatient, then please reach out to me. You all have my email on the meeting invite. With that being said, a little bit about how we work with AI within Trifork. We both help companies in exploring potential ways to go. So both providing inspiration and strategic workshops in terms of how a company can potentially leverage the AI potential that's definitely out there and that we're starting to see being leveraged by a lot of companies right now. So on an inspiration side, we can help. We're obviously also the ones that can help you build solutions. We're going to see a couple of solutions today here that's been built either by Trifork or by our customers. And then we have CoraxAI, which is our enablement platform, which is basically where you have a platform that you can leverage AI on a daily basis, and where all the I'm not supposed to say boring stuff, but all the important stuff has been taken care of, and you can basically focus on building the AI initiatives that deliver value. And in terms of delivering value, this is just a little gateway over to Christian to talk about CoraxAI, because there was a study last week by basically an MIT report, and they found that 95% of all pilots or POCs on Gen AI are basically failing. And the main conclusion of this report, and it's not something that I made up for the purpose of this seminar, but obviously it fits very well with the proposition from CoraxAI, because the main kind of revelation or the main conclusion is that it's all about basically looking into the integration into your enterprise architecture and the systems that you already work with, and that's one of the main propositions of CoraxAI. So although we hate to see all of these initiatives, AI pilots failing, we obviously we're happy to see that that the conclusion is that there's something to do about that, and that's basically what Christian is here to tell us a little bit about. So over to you, Christian.
Thank you very much, Martin. So I'm glad to be presenting. First and foremost, I'm going to be talking to you about just to establish a baseline, align everyone here about what is CoraxAI, and then I'll get into a bit about what's new in the platform, and then I have some demonstrations I want to show you towards the end. Right. So as we mentioned on the slide here, CoraxAI is a tooling platform that makes it easy to configure, deploy, and monitor your AI solutions, and then, of course, make sure they're safe and that they observe your GDPR or data protection standards. That might be through data retention policies or GDPR compliance and so on. The way that we establish this in the platform is through capabilities. And these AI capabilities essentially form the core of the platform, where you build a capability by, of course, first starting to note which problem am I trying to solve. And I'm going to walk you through a few problems, and we'll see a few more throughout the presentation. So let's say, for example, you want to build an AI solution that can answer emails that you might get. Let's say you're a bank and you get some emails through the banking interface or through customer support emails or something like that. Then you might want to create a completion capability. You choose which models you might want to use. You adjust the solution a little bit through the parameters that you can choose. Then you create some instructions for how the email answering bot should respond, which tone it should use, how it should use it. You might even give the bot access to some knowledge bases, which knows different things about your solution or internal products, or let's say existing knowledge that you have gathered throughout your company. Then what CoraxAI helps you do is to test and adjust the solution. I'll get into that a bit more later. But essentially, it allows you to iterate extremely quickly, so you arrive at a better solution much faster. And this is part of what we're focusing on to make sure that we can help improve the numbers that Martin just mentioned. We want to see every POC built on CoraxAI succeed, and that's why we're trying to help make this better. The process of arriving at a good solution, make that easier and faster. And then once you've maybe built the solution in Corax, you can have your IT or developers integrated into your existing solutions. I'll show you two variants of this in the demo. And then essentially you use CoraxAI as the engine that powers the AI. And then, of course, CoraxAI allows you to monitor and track the usage of your AI usage throughout the organization. This means that you have complete insight into what exactly the AI is being used for, if there are any, let's say, cases where something went wrong, or you want to use something as an example for something that went right, and so on. So I want to tell you about what's new in CoraxAI. And there's a lot of new things. I'm going to focus on 4 core areas. And the way I'm going to do that is by focusing on exactly this. So what is the question that is behind the feature? So what exactly am I trying to solve? So the 4 things I'm going to talk to you about is how we can safely update our AI in production, how we can connect our AI to existing solutions or tools, and how we can measure whether the solutions are improving or getting worse. And then also how we can extract structured data from documents. So the first question, of course, we're going to get to. change the slide. Maybe Martin will help me change the slide. Let's see. There we go. How do we safely update AI behavior in production? And we thought a lot about this. Of course, we want to make sure that whenever we roll something out to production, and even to external users and not just internal tools, we want to make sure that the behavior of the AI doesn't just suddenly change. And from general IT solutions, we know that we can test the solutions, of course. But with AI, it's not always as easy as just testing it. Maybe you switch to a new model and it behaves entirely differently, or you adjust some things in the prompt and then it does something entirely different. There's been a few examples of these high-profile examples. Some of them are not quite work-friendly, so I won't name them here. But some major companies have had issues where they had just a little line in the prompt, or they didn't quite guard their prompts enough, and that led to some unexpected behavior in the final solution. And that was towards millions of users, which is not great. So by using capability versioning, you're able to, when you create a new version of your capability, you can say, this is what I want to roll out live. This is the default now. And that's how you can essentially roll out behavior. You can also say you don't want to do that and then test it internally. So on to the next question. How do you connect AI to your existing tools? Of course, in your organization, you have so many tools and scattered solutions that you might want to have the AI integrate and use. So our solution to this, in a very generic way, is to use the model context protocol. And without getting into the technical details of what that means, it's simply a common protocol that you can use to have the AI integrate with your existing tools by only creating one new application that is essentially the binding element between your AI in CoraxAI and then, of course, your existing tools. So this means you can use CoraxAI to integrate with, let's say, might it be Salesforce or your Azure solutions or your own bespoke solutions, whatever it could be. You can get the weather, do research, check it up on internal services, maybe book parking or something like that. So this is how you can do it. And the next question is, how do we know if our AI is getting better or if it's getting worse? And that's going to be through the CoraxAI evaluation framework. We spent a lot of time getting this right, and I think we're in a good place. Using the CoraxAI evaluation framework, you're able to see whether the AI solution that you built using CoraxAI fulfills exactly what you want it to fulfill. So that might be, does it speak in the tone we want to see? Does it find the correct answers? Does it answer in a relevant way? Is it able to admit that it doesn't know something to the question that's being posed? And this also helps with compliance, because as you all know, having a solution that uses AI might degrade over time or might somehow, not give you the right insights. So if you were to use an AI solution where you can track the progress and then show any regulatory body or similar that the performance is similar to what it was before, you can easily say that, well, it performs exactly as we expect because we get these numbers and that's the same as we got last time or even better. This also helps you iterate quite fast because you can simply just run the tests in CoraxAI, run all of the evaluations, and you can see if the change you've made is better or worse. That helps you guide you in a good direction. Okay, so the final question before the demonstration. How do we get structured data from documents? And this is not an easy question because documents are varied. It's of course easy to just take maybe a simple PDF. It's only text. You can just put in the PDF or text into the AI solution that you built and then extract some data. That's quite simple, and we saw that a few years ago. But what about when the text documents or the PDFs or websites or PowerPoints or whatever, they contain images or complex figures or tables? What do you do then? Well, our answer is to use our extraction capabilities. We do some pretty advanced stuff behind the scenes, but essentially we're able to give some kind of data and then extract relevant parts, which we can feed into, let's say, an LLM, and then we get a properly formatted answer. Maybe you put in an invoice and you get out the total amount or something like that. I'll show you a demo about this a bit later. So we get into the demo. I want to share my screen very quickly, and then I'll show you a few examples that I brought along. Let's see if I can share my screen. Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to start with a solution that I call the Bank Advisory Pod. And I was kind of foreshadowing this a bit earlier, because this Bank Advisory Bot is essentially a solution that will answer tickets as they come into your system. And this is quite a simple solution, but it is still one solution that you can use initially to solve the problem and kind of prove that this works. We've built something like this before, and of course it takes a lot more than just one capability to address all of the potential issues in this kind of pipeline, but I just want to show you one example. So let me just first explain that this is the full CoraxAI frontend. And this is a management or configuration platform, which is one way to adjust your AI capabilities. There are lots of ways. Of course, you can use the API, or you can use your own frontend on top of the API, or whatever you want to do. But using the CoraxAI frontend, we found is a good way for the non-technical people or the domain experts to go in and then change the prompt, because of course they are the expert in their field, and then the developers can focus on integrating the solutions into their own bespoke solutions. So of course this is a prompt. I just want to show you what it looks like when we execute this. So I have some data I want to put in here. It just takes one moment for me to copy it over. We have the advisor contact. That's going to be the email of the advisor. And then we have the advisor name, of course, Alex Morgan. Then you might imagine that the solution takes in some customer context, which could include maybe their debit card information, so the last 4 digits, or which language they speak, or what their preferred tone is, and so on, or what solutions they may have with you at the moment. And then now I'm sending a short email that essentially is from Sarah, which is asking Trifork Bank if you could help them resolve an issue where they can see a transaction that they don't recognize. And then this will go through the AI capability that I just set up. And then here we see a response to this. And you can imagine that this might take time for an advisor to write, and it would take time to fill out. But now the AI gave a draft email, at least, in a very short amount of time. And as I mentioned earlier, you can hook this up to your knowledge bases. So then you would have to look into your external knowledge documents for what is the procedure when a customer asks this kind of question. So this is one kind of element for how you can use these kind of capabilities. But what if I'm not really satisfied with the output here? What if I'm not satisfied? But let's say I don't want to have it respond with the last 4 digits or repeat any of the information that the customer gave. Well, then we can use the evaluation framework that I mentioned earlier. Here we see an evaluation that we have. So it's essentially the preset template for the kind of evaluations that we want to run. This includes some criteria. You can see the criteria right down here, where we have both answer relevancy and correctness. These are both using AI to judge the response that the AI just gave before. So let's say in this case, it's an email. And then we take the email that the AI capability proposes, and then it says, well, first and foremost, is it relevant? And then secondly, is it correct? And of course, to measure if it's correct, we would have to provide a correct example. And I did that as before when I defined the data set. There's so many things I want to go through, and I can't quite show you everything in respect of time. So I'm just going through here. If you want to see more, of course, you can contact us, and I'd be happy to show you the entire example. You can see that I ran the test a bit earlier. It takes a few seconds only when we have, I have 3 examples that I passed through. So you can see that the answer relevancy is scores 100%, and the correctness does as well, which is really nice to see. And maybe that's the power of CoraxAI and GPT-4o. So in this case, you can see that we gave the system role, then the actual output that the AI gave. So that would be the email in this case. So that's the email that it proposed, and then to the right of that, we have the expected output or the correct output that I defined. So what the AI evaluation here tells us is that, well, the score is 100% or 1% or 1 because the email response essentially addresses the claim or the concerns and then tries to give some next steps without giving any irrelevant information. And then this allows us to essentially say that was passed, and then the same for the next few examples. So this is one way to use CoraxAI to create a solution really quickly and get some feedback. And then you can imagine you can create a lot of different cases where this may be improved or maybe looked at in other ways. You can define some edge cases where maybe machines would say, I don't know, or maybe have it contact one internal so we could flag it for attention from an actual human's advisor. The next solution I want to show you is just a really quick demo about extraction capabilities and how easily we can extract information. So I have an invoice that I'm dragging in here, and that's my internet that I'm going to be that I paid for a few months ago, and this is the invoice that I got. So I started the subscription to this a few months ago into the period, and then that would require some kind of reasoning about, well, it took some specific numbers. It can't just repeat the 389 figure because there's an intermittent period that I didn't have the internet. So what you're seeing here is that I essentially just gave a single PDF. I think it was scanned maybe, but really kind of unstructured PDF data that you might have a human look at, and then take out all of the relevant information or entries about each of the items and then extract them into a JSON format. And then you could imagine that this would just be sent to another system, and then it would be populated into the format that you're expecting. So this could be taking concerns from customers that were sent in as letters and then putting them into their Salesforce as maybe an opportunity or a case or what have you, or processing data from sent-in forms where you have to extract information in the form and then you have to put that into another system as well. This is just a simple example of how we can do that. And this is quite simple, actually. It uses 2 CoraxAI capabilities, and it took me a few minutes this morning to build. So I just have the extraction capability and then the analysis for the receipt. And then I can, of course, as you saw before, use CoraxAI to evaluate on whether this is good or extracted the proper numbers or it did it in the format that I expected. So this concludes my demo of 2 cases that were super easy to build with CoraxAI and how exactly CoraxAI can help you make the solution even better and, of course, make it even more ready for external use. And of course, we have observability and logging on all of this, but in the interest of time, I'm going to pass it on to Martin next.
All righty. Thanks a lot, Christian. You said simple a lot of times in this presentation. I don't think it looked that simple. It looked pretty cool. So thanks a lot for that that demo there. And I hope that you're all able to follow Christian's lead, even though it was very fast. But it was a quick run through on some of the capabilities that CoraxAI has, and obviously also kind of putting it into context on how you can use it. In terms of putting things into context, I'm going to present the next case here, and with a little bit less technical starting point because it's me and not Christian doing the presentation here. And then hopefully, if you have some or if there are some technicalities, Christian can drop in and help me along the way. First of all, a little bit of background on Spar Nord, the Spar Nord Foundation. It's basically a foundation that aims at strengthening the community feel and togetherness across Denmark. They get around 3,000 applications per year, which is for some it's a lot, but at least it requires a lot of handling because each application has to be basically read through and evaluated in terms of whether this application should receive a grant or not. And that's basically the starting point here. So a lot of applications, and they used to be handled manually. And obviously, This can be put in any other context, so it could be job applications, it could be any other documents that needs manual handling. Um, and the starting point, obviously, here also has to do with the notion that it's relatively easy to see an AI case in this because most of us has seen how ChatGPT can handle information and can read through stuff and actually understand it. So it's relatively easy, at least on a concept level, to understand how can AI improve this process. And this is basically what we set out to do with the beginning. We looked at the criteria that the Spar Foundation has. There's a lot of different values that they use to judge each application on, and they're basically doing a score on each of these values. So how visible is this going to be? How innovative is it? How much does it tie into the togetherness factor, and so on? And we started out building kind of the first solution here. We did what would basically mirror uploading an application into ChatGPT and then asking it to value the application on all of these different criteria. And as you would imagine, it gave us some output here. It gave some values on each of the criteria, and it gave basically a judgment on a scale from 1 to 6 and so forth. But there were also some limitations here. So as Christian was talking about before, when you're evaluating a capability, you have some expectations for the output. And in this case, we didn't see the consistency that we were hoping for. Sometimes it got mixed up a little bit in the ratings and so forth. And this is probably what some of you experience when you use either Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever for a solution. You experience that there are some shortcomings, and then you kind of doubt whether is this even an AI case, or can we use this for anything? But what we did here is basically that we, instead of giving up on this project, we changed the perspective a little bit, and then we built the solution in a way where we basically made each AI capability an expert within one given criteria. So we basically split up the assignment for the AI here in a lot of specialist tasks. So one AI capability gets the job of actually judging whether the innovation score is high in this application. It's the same application that is basically uploaded into the AI, or that it gets to value, but it's only supposed to do one thing. And that splitting up the task in that way makes it much easier for the AI to be an expert, basically, to be precise. And then you can stitch things together afterwards and then have a final output, and I'll show you what that looks like. But the whole idea of having experts instead of having a very general AI capability that's supposed to overview everything is basically the difference here. Sometimes you'll also see, if you have something where you need to be very, very sure about that the outcome is right, you'll see that you do parallel capabilities. So you basically give the exact same job to different capabilities, and then afterwards you can, for example, you have the output from 5 different capabilities, and then you have another capability on the backside that's basically judging the output of that, of those 5 capabilities, and then you have something where you're very certain that the answer is 100% right. So splitting up into different capabilities is one criteria. We also built a document chat, so it's easy for the employee at Spar Foundation to basically get some info out. So if they have specific questions, they don't have to scan through the application, but just talk to a chatbot. Very easy, and most of you have probably tried that already. This is basically the admin view. This is a little bit, what Christian showed us before. This is where you can change your prompt. This is where you can, set the temperature. How creative do you want it to be? What model do you want to use, and so forth. But for the employee that's actually handling the applications that's coming into Spar Foundation, they're probably not especially keen on looking at schemas and judging whether one language model is better than the other. They just want something to look at in terms of making the evaluation of each application. And what they look at is something that looks a little bit more like this. So it's basically one application coming in, the AI doing its work here in Corax, and then you have basically a very visual overview where you have spider web here, where all of the different values are being judged on a scale from 1 to 6. There's a small recap of each evaluation score. So basically, the AI is telling you why it gave the evaluation that it did, and then it's very easy for the employee to make a judgment of whether this application should have a grant or not. It also takes away some of the bias that might be there. If you have an employee making the evaluation that's who's interested in football, for example, and it's a football application, maybe they're a little bit prone or biased to give grants to this in terms of some other project. And you can take some of it out of this with giving them a solution like this. Essentially, you could also automate everything and just give automated replies to the applications. Our Spar Foundation didn't want to do this and that in this instance, but automation is definitely also an opportunity that's on the backside of this. Yeah, this is a little bit about what Spar Foundation experienced, and luckily they like the solution also. What we're looking into now is adding some extra features on it. Now that we have the CoraxAI platform here, we can build other things on top of it. One thing is to do a financial analysis of the people or the organizations that applied for the grant. So making sure that these are people that are actually going to do something good with the money and not just pour it into a hole that's there already, maybe. And that could be other ways of adding to this solution, basically. Some of the learnings, and the biggest learning that we did here is the one where we basically split all of the AI work into different capabilities. So we have small expert capabilities that's basically only doing one thing. That's very easy to do when you have Corax, because that's a innovative and easy UI here. So you can just copy a capability and then give it a little bit of different task. So that's definitely one thing that's a big learning here. And then the other learning is that once you have this setup where you have the full overview, it's easy to improve. It's easy to track usage. It's easy to do all of these things that the CoraxAI platform applies for. And then obviously also you can start building other stuff on top of it. So you could do, maybe you want to do a chatbot for applicants on your website. It's easy to do because you can let it access all the knowledge that you have about how to do a good application. You could do summaries. You could do reports for, board meetings or whatever. So a lot of different learnings from this, and hopefully it's a case that can see relevance in other places also, not only for applicants for grants, but for basically document handling at large. Yeah, that was the Spar Foundation, and now I'm happy to welcome Morten to the table, or to the presentation here, and he's going to tell us a little bit about Ant Money. Also a little background on what Ant Money is, because I'm not sure you're all familiar with it. So welcome, Morten.
Thank you, Martin. Just checking that I can actually change slide. I can. Perfect. So hi everybody. My name is Morten Jeppesen, and I am the CTO of Ant Money. Ant Money is a fintech company headquartered in Copenhagen. We provide intelligent customer engagement solutions for financial institutions, and for some reason it changed. Can I change back? Hopefully I can. Well, I can't. Doesn't matter. Well, I could. Yeah, so I'm going to show you one of our latest products that is focused on providing real-time assistance for a financial advisor. And here we changed again. And I was going to say there's no time for a demo during this session, so I'm inviting you to join us or meet us at Nordic FinTech Week. I can show you a live demo there. Okay, I'll try to change slide now. And nothing happens, so maybe I can ask you, Martin, to change. I don't know why it's not working.
No, it's a little bit strange. Now yeah.
It's okay. We will
You
manage.
just ask me.
Yeah. I'll just say Martin, and then you know you
Yeah.
should change. Anyway, we are aiming at providing superpowered advisory to our clients. We want to make every employee perform like the top 10%. We have various products that is part of this mission, but the product today is very much focused on the actual customer meeting and providing real-time assistance. So if we just switch to the next slide, Martin. So imagine the scenario that there's a physical or an online meeting between an advisor and a client, or more clients. It can also be in the near future a phone meeting or phone call. We aim to provide the advisor or the employee with real-time support during the meeting. So the screenshots I'm going to show you in just a while is the screens or the support screens that we show the advisor during the meeting. We have a different product that actually is aimed at showing the client a real-time update during the meeting. But that's not the topic for today. This is the advisor support screen. And even though it's real time, then we actually consider this customer engagement before the engagement, during the engagement, and after the engagement. And before and after, it's not real time because it doesn't need to be. So before the meeting, we provide the advisor with a customer overview where we aggregate a lot of information from the CRM system and present that in a easily digestible and actionable manner to the advisor. So instead of going and hopping around in the CRM system and looking at notes or emails or whatever, we actually prepare that for the advisor so they can save valuable time. It's very easy to just prepare, spending not half an hour, but maybe 10 minutes using this customer overview. We also help the advisor set goals for the meeting. Of course, the institution, the financial company, may have already set some predetermined goals based on customer category and meeting topic. There might be some campaign goals, but the advisor can also put in her own goals and use our AI system to identify additional relevant goals based on the customer context. And of course, for all of this, we use Corax. Now, and then we enter the live meeting during the meeting. So during the meeting, we track in real time and we detect in real time. So we track goals. Have the goals been met or not met? And then if a goal is met, we update the UI to the advisor so they in a visual manner can quickly get confirmation. Okay, I'm past this point. Let's move on. We track or detect opportunities during the meeting. So there might be 1, 2, 3 opportunities mentioned during the meeting. We make sure that the relevant opportunity is in focus. Based on the conversation and on the opportunity, we can then recommend products or find relevant products for the given context and the client's preferences. We also can detect or map to relevant customer benefits. And actually, if the values are discussed during the meeting, we can also do actual calculations and present actual monetary value of the customer benefits. We also listen for intents, in this case, meeting intents. So say you have a meeting and the advisor and client mutually agrees that, yes, we should have a follow-up meeting. Then we detect this intent and we live present the advisor with the best available time slots so that they don't have to look in a calendar. They don't have to do anything. They can just say, okay, what about Thursday next week? No, that doesn't fit. Friday at 11, yeah, that's good. And then we book the meeting. You don't have to do anything. It just happens autonomously. We are extending this agentic AI or autonomous AI with service requests so that simple requests can be handled autonomously by the AI, but of course, still with the advisor in control. All of this happens in real time during the meeting. Then after the meeting, we have automated the opportunity creation. So say you had 2 opportunities detected with different amounts and deadlines, etc. All of this is prepared and ready just to submit into the system. The advisor can quickly screen it, or we can actually run in full autonomous mode. We provide a meeting summary. So of course, having to write up a summary of the meeting and ship to the client takes valuable time, but we can prepare that automatically. We can also create internal notes for the advisor team. And finally, we generate advisor feedback. So the advisor, if he or she wants, can get feedback on the meeting that was just conducted, like, what went well, what didn't go so well, and how could you improve for the next meeting. Okay, that's our real-time advisor assistance. And the impact of this is you could say manifold. Of course, we save a lot of hours because we save time before the meeting and after the meeting, but we also improve the outcome of the meeting. We reduce the training required for new employees. The organization becomes more resilient against changes in the workforce. So there's both a efficiency impact, but also a robustness impact on the organization. Okay, anyway, let's move on. So yeah, I'm going to show you some screenshots. It's our product can embed into different CRM systems, in this case Salesforce. It's Danish speakers, so for the English audience out there, I'm sorry for the Danish text in the screenshots, but it's about a mortgage loan. But if you just continue, Martin. So the first screen is a meeting preparation screen where you can configure the meeting. You can add participants if for some reason they were not part of the meeting invite. You can set goals, you can review the goals, you can add additional goals, and you can use our additional AI-generated goals based on the customer context to add them to the meeting. And just move on. Then during the meeting, we keep track of meeting goals and we keep track of opportunities, and we provide speaking points, we track relevant products, and we track relevant benefits. And in the early beginning of a meeting, you can see no goals have been met, and maybe we haven't been able to do calculations on a benefit or something like that. As the meeting moves on, then you achieve some goals, and you have you check off some speaking points that are addressed already, and we can actually, it's very hard to see here, but we can then start doing some calculations on some of the customer benefits. And if you move on, then at the end of the meeting or after the meeting, we create opportunities. It's not shown here because it's another screen. What is shown here is the summary. So we create the summary that can be shipped to the client. We also create the advisor feedback, which is not shown on this screen. So all of this is before, during, and after, where we support the advisor in getting the most out of the meeting as efficiently as possible. So how does Corax play into this? Let's take the next screen. And I apologize beforehand on my PowerPoint skills, but I've tried to make it very illustrative. So imagine that, during the meeting, there's a dialogue and it's progressing. I'm trying to illustrate that a dialogue can progress in many weird ways during such a meeting. But what we do is first we take this and convert the speech to text. And then we use these text messages and pass them through Corax to enrich the context of the conversation. So we have a contextual representation of the conversation. In the beginning, we only have the background information like the customer overview, and we have the goals that the advisor set before the meeting. So that's our very initial representation of the context. That drives how we support the advisor. Initially, in the beginning of the conversation, we provide a simple status overview like no opportunities detected and you haven't met any goals yet. As the meeting progresses, this impacts the conversation. And this loop, so to speak, where we enrich the context and we drive which drives the advisor support, and this impacts the conversation, we actually call that the conversational reinforcement loop. If you click again, Martin. And we are trying to build the strongest possible reinforcement loop, so to speak. And the better and faster we can do this, the more positive impact we can have on the conversation. And let's move forward. So the dialogue progresses, and one of the first things we use Corax for is actually identifying who says what, because that's quite important during such a meeting. That from the speech to text technology, you get text snippets that are the spoken words, the spoken sentences. We get that back with some speaker labels like guest 1, guest 2, guest 3, and we need to intelligently map that to the actual roles and participants. So that's the first thing we do actually when the conversation starts, and slowly we build up more status and insights. And let's continue. And as the conversation progresses, we can build up more context. So, and as Martin mentioned earlier, it's a good idea to have specialist capabilities to do this. So all of these various parts of the context, we use different core capabilities to detect an opportunity, to enrich an opportunity, to track the goals, to recommend products, etc. But as the dialogue progresses, we build up more and more context using these core capabilities, which then drives how we can support the advisor. So at a certain point in the conversation, we have identified one or more opportunities, and we have identified some relevant products that we present to the advisor, and he or she can then use this information to impact the conversation. And as the conversation continues, Martin, we detect more and more, or we can enrich the context more and more. In this case, I've illustrated that, now we know, then we can apply some benefits and maybe some calculations. We can detect that they want to meet, and our booking agent can autonomously book a meeting, etc. And all of this then helps the advisor. In some cases, it helps them remember to ask this question or present this benefit to the client, or just reduces the mental load by taking and booking the meeting, so you don't have to spend time fiddling around with your calendar or whatever you need to do. It's about helping the advisor get the most out of the meeting to the benefit of the client, right? And we're using Corax for all of these context enrichments. And one of the critical aspects is, in such a setting here, is the speed, because you need to have a very low latency in your responses, because otherwise you're just not using your support tool. But the quality also needs to be high. So we have been doing a lot of fine-tuning, not fine-tuning of the LLM, but tuning of the capabilities in Corax, changing models, changing prompts, changing instructions. And for this to succeed, so that you can still ensure that you have the output you want to go for, you need the evaluation framework that Christian showed you. It's very important to have this ability when you have a system that you need to tune to balance latency and quality, actually. So that's been one of the core challenges here, to use generative AI in a real-time scenario. Okay, so let's wrap it up, Martin. So what did we get most out of in terms of benefits from Corax in Anmoni? So we got speed of development and experimentation. So actually, before we even built our system, we could go in and do some conversations. We could transcribe them, and we had a conversation, and then we could start experimenting with how can you track goals, how can you detect opportunities, how can you improve the speed of the response. You don't even need a running system. You can use this configuration and management UI that Christian showed for this. So it was very easy to get going, so to speak, and we used that a lot initially, actually, and also afterwards. But initially, it gave us speed of execution. Integration-wise, well, Anmoni's products are API first, So Corax is API first as well. So it's extremely easy for us to hook up our platform together with Corax because you eat APIs for breakfast in this day and age. So that was very easy for us. Also, and that actually relates also to the compliance. Uh, it was very easy for us to hook up to different LLM providers and switch models. That was easy from an integration point of view, but that's also very important from a compliance point of view because we can switch between different providers. So say we need to be European hosted only. So that's fairly easy to do in our case. And we can also switch models fairly easy. Now, of course, switching models is not easy because you need to evaluate the impact that has on your output. But as Christian showed, we use the evaluation framework for that because we use 3 or 4 different models during such a conversation, and we use around 20 different capabilities during such a conversation. So a lot of different moving parts in play. And Corax kind of orchestrates this for us and makes it easy to use. So, yep. That was the speed talk, Martin. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Morten. And yeah, I'm obviously very impressed by this case. It feels a little bit like looking into the future because it is actually enhancing a real-time conversation between two people, but enhancing it with AI. So a very impressive solution, and yeah, thanks a lot for presenting it. So we have 8 minutes left or something like that, and I was just gonna see if we have any questions in here. There's one here that says, how many capabilities did it take to do the and money case? And I think you actually answered that, but yeah, maybe you want to elaborate a little bit more.
Currently around 20 capabilities. It fluctuates because we are still tuning the system, and one of the elements of tuning it is splitting up capabilities. So we have this cascading context enrichment. So when I meet you at FinTech week, it might be 23, but it's in that vicinity. Yeah.
Cool. And again, you're feel free to ask questions. Everybody, we'll answer as many as we can. Somebody here has asked which language models are used by CoraxAI, and how do we secure that it's data sovereignty? Maybe Christian, you could just elaborate a little bit on that.
I'd be happy to. I also want to point out that there are a few questions in the chat we could also address.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
So CoraxAI supports all of the modern providers. So anything you might want to use, it's very likely that we support it unless you build it in PyTorch yesterday or something. And then again, maybe. But essentially we support that, especially because we want to ensure data sovereignty. As Morten mentioned, then supporting EU and maybe LLMs hosted here in Denmark is a huge case for us. That's why we also make sure that we work with local models regularly, like having a H100 card hosted with Netic, where we can play with some models and then also testing on our own machines or so on. So trying a lot of variants of this configuration, but trying to essentially make sure that you can use whatever models work and then supporting the switch to one of these local models through something like evaluations and then the capability versioning that we mentioned earlier. So we're trying to make sure that it's super easy to do, but also we support all the different kind of providers or inference machines you want to use.
Thank you, Christian. There's another question here that I'm hoping that you could answer about prompt optimization. So the question is, does CoraxAI support DSP? Why are other forms of automatic prompt optimization tools, removing the need for costly or fragile prompt engineering?
Oh yeah, this is a big topic and something we've been looking into quite a lot. I would say part of the question, there's the statement that it's costly and fragile, but one of the things we're very aware of is that it's also costly for providers, or no, sorry, our customers to provide data sets for evaluation and prompt optimization. This can usually take a lot longer time because you have to get domain experts to provide edge cases or golden sets and so on that you could use to optimize the prompts. Because most of the cases usually take some implicit knowledge through that you gain only by having the post for a long time. When we're trying to automate different systems or solutions inside, let's say banks or what have you. But of course, this is something we're super excited about. So you could say that the evaluation framework is one way for us to get there by having our customers put in correct answers and then using that to optimize prompts. Because we do agree that it's the future, but for a lot of the cases we have had, it has not been necessary, and it's actually been it's something that will take a bit longer because you have to get the correct examples for your data set.
Thank you. And then there's actually, I think Morten, maybe this is to you. Morten mentioned the challenge to identify the speakers in the conversation. What about understanding dialects and unclear pronunciations? And what about interruptions? So a little bit more on how to, basically the speech to text recognition there. You need to unmute yourself, Morten, otherwise it's going to be very little speech
no
about
speech
speech.
to text. Yeah. No, it is a challenge, obviously. But one of the interesting, so we need to test it on thousands of conversations or get experience from a lot of conversations. So what I'm saying now is our initial experience. But the interesting thing is actually that, so we are not trying to generate a, let's say, exact transcript. We actually do not care. We have the transcript, but we do actually not care so much about the transcript. We care about the context we can generate from the transcript. And as it happens, we've had some hour-long meetings, and the signal to noise ratio is very low. So a lot of interruptions, a lot of weird words that are transcribed, but the information density is extremely low. So they talk about the same thing for 15 minutes for some reason. That's apparently how we conduct meetings. So we can actually, the same thing is mentioned maybe 3, 4, 5, 10 times. And so we can still build the right opportunity and recommend the right products, etc. The transcript honestly looks very messy, but it's actually acceptable for doing what we need to do. I hope that answers the question.
And what about western part of Jutland? Would you still be able to do it there in terms of dialects and?
I'm from western part of Jutland actually, but no, it is a challenge. And if it's a very heavy dialect, what the speech to text models we use currently, they will be challenged. Yes, that's true.
Makes sense, but obviously this is an area that's also being developed quite rapidly at the moment. So.
And money, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So we use technology out there instead of reinventing it because we don't have that, let's say, development power ourselves. And so we piggyback on this extremely fast evolution in this sector, right? Tomorrow there's a new model and it just performs slightly better. And then we use that because it's so easy to change models, right? Yeah.
I think we have time for one last question. It's a little bit about compliance. So here is a question: is CoraxAI SOC 2 proof? What data protection do you get when connecting to Corax, and how difficult is it? Is the InfoSec due diligence process generally? Christian, is that you? I'm hoping that it's not me because then I'll be coming a little bit short in there.
No, I'd be happy to answer. So we have different models with different customers. So obviously, come and talk to us. We do have essentially the ability to lock the whole system down, so you can have it in your basement, which means that no data would be leaving the premise. And the exact model, of course, come and talk to us. I would be happy to advise, and then so will all my colleagues. But essentially, we have mechanisms inside of Corax that you can use to delete data. We can put in guardrails. We can put in all kinds of protections like that. And then, of course, there's also the hosting model of where CoraxAI is hosted. So again, you can use local models, and then we can support that. And and so on. So there's a lot of different options. We have explored them with our customers before, so just come and talk to us, and we'd be happy to find a model that works.
Yeah. So and at the end of the day, the question or the answer is that we're actually, deploying on a typically we're deploying in the infrastructure of the customer, and then it's up to the level of security that they're looking for, basically. I think that was more or less the questions that we had time for. Luckily there's a lot of other questions, so maybe we're going to follow up on some of these when we send out the presentation afterwards. But thanks a lot for being active. Also, it's often seldom, but I think it's a good sign that we have a lot of questions here today. So thank you guys for participating, and thank you for listening in, and thank you to Christian and Morten for joining me here. It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot, and have a good day out there.
Have a good day. Bye.
Good day.
Bye.